Okay, thank you everybody for coming to our group writing conference. And thank you to Michelle for volunteering to be our first writer. The way we're going to do this is first, I will ask Michelle to tell us a little bit about her paper and her writing process and where she wants us to give her some feedback. And then we'll go through and each one of us can give her some of our comments or ask questions, and Michelle can respond with her ideas for how she might revise her paper. So first, Michelle, can you tell us just a little bit about what is your purpose for writing this paper and what was your process?
Yeah. So this paper is for a class that I'm taking, and the goal that I have for it is just to make sure that I address all of the requirements in the for the assignment, and to also make sure that the writing is clear so that anyone who reads it will be able to understand it without a lot of extra explanation. And so my process in preparing it, firstly was to read, because there were 2 readings to prepare. So for the first part, I had to read an article and summarize it. So I worked on that part first, summarizing the article. And then for the second part, we had to analyze the article according to the characteristics in the second reading. So in order to write that part, I had to try to group or relate the characteristics together so that I could have more substantial paragraphs. Otherwise, I was going to have short sentences, about 9 sentences that might be disconnected. So I tried to figure out how they were related so that I could write them as paragraphs at the end. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you feel about this so far?
I feel like it is a good start, but there's certainly places that I think I made some assumptions about the amount of background knowledge that other readers might have. And so I just wonder if there are places where I might have assumed something and written something in a way that might be unclear, or maybe I use a little too much terminology or technical things that other people may not know. So yeah, I feel like it needs some work in the clarity department.
Okay, sounds good. So we will give you point out some things that we weren't sure we understood. And so the first question I had was, how did they analyze their data? So in your summary of a research article, you said the data collected, and then you said the findings suggest.
Okay, so in this part, you think that I should, before I get to the findings, I should add a section that talks about the data analysis first?
Yeah, and I think one of the things we saw when we got to the end of your paper is you said they didn't actually tell us how they analyzed the data. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So maybe you just can, in the summary, you can just tell us, the article doesn't say how they analyze the data.
Okay.
Let's see. So another question that I had is, here you say that when you read the article, I just want to clarify here that I'm understanding you right. So you say it's interesting to note that the collaborative AR project followed emergent design, but above you said they don't specify if it followed emergent design. So you're saying that from what was included in the study, you are concluding for yourself that it was an emergent design?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's probably another part I need to clarify in the summary. So it's essentially they're studying a project within a project. So the teachers who are involved do an action research project, and then the trainers worked with the 2 teachers to collaborate on the project. So what the trainers were studying was how the collaboration worked. It's basically a project within a project. So the bigger project that was looking at the collaboration, it didn't seem like that followed emergent design. It seemed like they knew what methods they wanted to use going in. they didn't talk about whether or not they changed those methods. But with the
Oh,
with the action research project, that one did follow an emergent design because they were meeting every time. The teacher trainers and the teachers doing the action research were meeting every time, and they would actually discuss in their meetings what needed to change with that project.
okay.
So yeah, so I think
Yeah.
maybe I didn't explain that in the summary either because I was worried about having too many details or having the summary be too long. But it seems like that's a part that should be clarified because it's maybe not explained very well
Yeah,
there. So,
that sounds
okay.
good. I didn't
Yeah.
get that from the summary.
Okay.
Let's see. Another question I had was, here. So this is also about the data analysis where you say the researchers do not describe any coding process. So did you see any sense that, or did you get a sense from reading the article that they did code their data?
They didn't mention anything about it. They just they reported what was found in each data collection method, but they didn't have a separate section that was labeled data analysis, and they don't mention anything about how they actually analyzed it. It was more summarizing what they found. Yeah, that was a little confusing.
Okay, so that clears up some of the questions that I had.
Okay.
Mitsuko or Victoria or Ricky, would you like to ask? Mitsuko and Victoria, you both had questions about the summary.
Right. So I kind of know what is action research, but I kind of wanted more explanation about it. So it seems like it's a cycle of teaching.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So Mitsuko, you think maybe after this sentence or as part of this sentence where you've highlighted action research that it might be good to just have a short definition, or maybe in the next sentence add a sentence level definition of what action research is?
Yeah, I don't think you have to like write a super big paragraph about it, but just briefly touch on it. I can kind of implicitly know what you're saying, but yeah, I think it will be helpful.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
Victoria, you seem to have a question on the introduction too.
I think I was just confused in terms of the roles, since in terminology wise, I thought the teacher trainer was a mentor for the pre-service teacher, because I thought the pre-service teacher was in a course where the teacher trainers like probably are their professors that are teaching them how to become English teachers. So I just wanted to check if what you meant by the role, what roles or what responsibilities the teacher trainers did.
Okay. Yeah. So the two teacher trainers that are the participants in the study are actually the two researchers. And so they, from what they said in the context part of their study at the beginning, they were based at this university. So they taught some classes, but they also did other kinds of professional development activities and did workshops and things with the teachers there. But they did not specifically mention whether this pre-service teacher was one of their students or not.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I think I should probably maybe clarify or add a little more details in the top about the participants and their roles.
And maybe since you mentioned that, because I didn't, since I'm not as familiar with action research, I didn't connect the dots that the two teacher trainers were the researchers that are writing this article.
Okay. Yeah, so I would definitely add that in for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, that was my main confusion as well about the teacher trainers being part of the research, because you do mention it on the third page, but by then I've already been introduced to the article and I've kind of got it in my head, and then you introduce this on the third page. So maybe if you put that into the introduction, it would be beneficial.
Okay, great, thank you. Yes, I will do that.
Let's see. And Mitsuko, you have another comment here in the section called complex reasoning and holistic accounts. you want to ask?
Right. So I highlighted the sentence, the conclusion is brief and lays out a clear cause-effect relationship. But I was wondering what was the cause in this context and what was the effect in this article that they in this
Okay.
project.
Yeah. So first, I should say that this idea about the cause-effect relationship came from the reading about when there was an explanation about holistic account in there, and they talk about whether or not the research takes into account multiple perspectives and looks at more things than just one as far as cause and effect goes, if they talk about what possible factors could be involved. So looking at multiple perspectives. So that's where that language came from. I think maybe I need to refer back to that to make it a little bit clearer. But as far as the findings of the project go, what they're saying is the cause was them collaborating together, doing this collaborative project. And the effect of that was that they all grew professionally. So they learned how to work together more effectively as a team as they analyzed their notes. And they learned to be more reflective through the journaling that they did. And they also said that they learned a little bit more about the theories that were underlying their practice because they did research together. So the way that they laid out the conclusion, that was basically it. Doing this project was great for our professional development, but it seemed kind of simplistic to me. That's why I wrote the sentence in this way, because it didn't seem like they took other factors or other perspectives into account. So, yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I see.
Yeah.
And Ricky, you had a comment here as well, sounding more academic.
Yes, so about that. So I guess what I was getting at with that is, contractions are looked down upon in academia, but really I think that's a pretentious thing and maybe we shouldn't be encouraging that. So I don't know, I made that comment, but I don't know if I agree with my own comment.
I'm glad that you said that, because I think that I had actually gone through on the top and I had made sure that I didn't have any contractions. And I think when I got to the end, I just, was trying to finish it and I looked over it. So I appreciate you pointing that out, because now I can go back and fix it.
Okay. Did anybody else have another question or a comment about something that could help Michelle as she revises? Okay, well, thank you. And Michelle, what is your next step going to be?
Okay, so first step is going to be going back to the article and the summary and adding more details in just to make that clearer, because I think when I first wrote it, I was just trying to be more concise, and I cut out a lot of details, but it seems like those details were quite necessary for people to understand, especially so that other people don't have to go and read the whole article to understand my paper. And then the second thing will then be to go through those characteristics and see if there are any places where I need to bring in more from the reading, or maybe I need to give more specific examples from the article that I read. And then lastly, I'll make sure that I fix my contraction.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing, and thank you everybody for your feedback. And now I'm going to stop.